What up, Fight World? It's the mighty mean Joe Frazier. You're now tuned in to FistPhysics, another episode brought to you by AOV Boxing. Here today, we're going to discuss the greatest heavyweight champion of all time. Real quick, I just want to put out a quick disclaimer for anybody who might be offended about what I'm going to say here today. Muhammad Ali, greatest sports personality ever that I've ever seen, witnessed, recorded in my eyes, ever. The most entertaining heavyweight of all time. But, unfortunately, I cannot rank him as the greatest heavyweight of all time in my list. He's high up there. He's number 2. He's actually tied with number 2 on my list with Jack Johnson. I'll be doing a separate video breaking down my top 10 heavyweights of all time later. But now, we're going to take an in-depth look at Smoking Joe Frazier. Joseph William Frazier. Great heavyweight. Doesn't get the credit he deserves as far as I'm concerned. And it's not just because we share a last name. It's because of what this man did and proved in the ring. Now, before we get into that, I'll break down his stats real quick. Joe was 5'11". He had a 73-inch reach. He was born 1/12/1944. His career when he retired was 37 wins, 32 of these wins coming by knockout, 4 losses to Hall of Fame fighters, Muhammad Ali twice, George Foreman, I believe, twice. Oh, you know what? Actually, I'm sorry. 37 wins, 4 losses, 37 fights, 32 wins, 27 coming by knockout, 4 losses, 1 draw. He's also an Olympic gold medalist. His career ran from 1965 to 1976. Some of his biggest wins have come against Jerry Quarry, George Chuvalo, and Jimmy Ellis. All great champions were defeated at the hands of this man. He beat Muhammad Ali in 1971. That's very important because we're about to get into a little backstory about Joe to let you know what he was dealing with going into that fight. And I'm not talking about all of the verbal arguments that were going back and forth between these two camps actually promoting the fight, but what Joe was dealing with on a physical level. Now, it turns out that Joe Frazier had a severe injury to his left arm on the family farm. He was not able to get the proper medical attention, and, well, it says here the left arm, but I think it actually might be the right arm. But he had a tear, I believe, in the right arm, and he was not able to fully extend the right arm like he should. Family couldn't afford the proper medical attention. He never got it fixed, and it healed like that. So, looking at Joe going into this Ali fight, he couldn't extend the right arm fully. 1965, a training accident in the gym. Joe Frazier suffered a severe damage to the left eye, which left him 80% blind, 70% to 80% blind in that left eye. And this is the man that goes in to fight a guy who, true, he had a short layoff, Ali. He hadn't fought in a while. But Frazier's dealing with physical ailments that probably in this time, 2015, 2016, he wouldn't have been able to legally fight. Plain and simple. I don't think that any doctors would have cleared this man to fight. Once upon a time, you're able to pay these guys off under the table, and then they look the other way, everything's all good. But now let's take a look at the actual fight. He fights Muhammad Ali, and basically not only is this fight for the title of the heavyweight championship of the world, but it also is the title of the greatest heavyweight of all time, because this is the title that Ali put on himself and stated publicly, if you beat me, I will tell the world that you are the greatest heavyweight of all time, which never transpired at all. Now, Joe goes into this fight having a style considered to be very similar to Henry Armstrong, another all-time great. I think Henry Armstrong actually has like 150 wins with maybe 10 losses or something like that. Really ridiculous. But he was compared to that sort of style. And in this fight, Joe shows you physically that a superior athlete can be overcome with a superior will. In my eyes, Joe Frazier willed himself through that fight. He took so much punishment, so many heavy, hard shots. Ali was trying to get this guy out there early, man. That was not the rope-a-dope where he tries to kind of string you along and let you tire yourself out. Ali went out there to make a point, to make a statement on Joe Frazier that he was not on his level. And you could understand why Ali would feel like that, because he was the superior athlete. He had the height advantage. He had the arm length advantage. He had the hand speed advantage. He had the foot speed advantage. Joe Frazier was at a disadvantage on so many different levels. He should have went down. And I think that's the magical part about looking at Joe Frazier as a fighter. Not only did he fight Ali once, but he fought Ali 3 times and never hit the canvas. Okay? Ali in that first fight, he gets his jaw broke. He hits the canvas. Joe Frazier is the first person to knock Ali down ever. Ever. And it has to be taken into account. Now, where do I come up with my theory that Joe Frazier is the greatest heavyweight of all time? It's based on this. When we take a look at the top 10, and most people who are in the boxing are going to put Jack Dempsey there, maybe Mike Tyson, definitely Marciano and Joe Louis and Jack Johnson and Muhammad Ali. These are all going to be on the list. But I think years after viewing Frazier Ali 1, we have to say that Frazier would be a 50-50 with anybody in those top 10 rankings based on his ability to absorb a large amount of punishment. We can't say that Marciano would have took this guy out early. Looking at the history of the way this guy was fighting, he should be able to hang in there for 15 rounds with a Marciano, with a Joe Louis. These guys don't have an output the way Muhammad Ali was putting up his punches. You're talking about a guy that's very accurate, and he's throwing 100 punches around, and out of the 100 punches, maybe he's missing 20. He's hitting you 80 times in the face. Joe Louis was a technician. He was going to take you apart one shot at a time. Marciano, he was going to wear you down one shot at a time. Ali is a volume puncher. He's literally going to beat you up until you either quit on the stool or your body can't physically take this punishment anymore. And Joe's body stood up to that punishment. And if it was up to me, had I been one of the people backing Joe Frazier, after the win over Ali, I would have sent him into retirement. He would have retired at 26-0 with a win over one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. And that's the way his career should have ran and ended. All right, folks. I'm going to be digging in deep into this subject right here because I think that Joe Frazier should definitely be the #1 heavyweight of all time. Tune in because I'm going to be doing fantasy matchups basically between him and every single person on the top 10 list to prove to you how Joe's a 50-50 on any given night with any one of these guys. All right, Mighty Mean Joe Frazier, FistPhysics.